I asked you this question last week and you found every which way but not to answer it. Just how many grooming gangs have we got in London?
To avoid any misunderstanding, can she define what she means by that?
Mr. Mayor, you are fully aware of what grooming gangs are, what we're talking about, because we're talking about them daily.
These gangs of people that are grooming young girls for sex. Do we actually have those in London?
Today, I'm unclear, Chair, what is meant by the question. If you could spell it out, I can answer.
I've just spelt it out. Are you not listening? It's the sort of gangs that groom young girls at a young age for sex. Exactly how much clearer do you want me to be?
Ladies wearing the hijab or the burqa, but putting their covering over them so that they will not be molested. And that's actually, it's funny that he goes 2 verses earlier than the passage, which is part of the reason for the grooming gangs, right? You Muslim women, non-Muslim women, you're responsible for whether you get molested or not by how you cover yourselves. And so if you don't cover yourself, it's because according to the Quran, you're quite happy to be molested. And so you got that, you combine that with Islam's teaching about what you can do with your captives, those your right hands possess, and the utter contempt that the Quran has for non-Muslims. So again, Surah 98 verse 6, they are the worst of creatures. We're lower, non-Muslims are lower than dogs. We're lower than pigs, according to Allah. You put all of that stuff together and you get grooming gangs. What Allah thinks of these, teenage girls, 11, 12, 13-year-old girls, as pure garbage. So if you can actually seize control over them, you might as well. They're not covering themselves properly, so they don't care if they get molested. And so, our Muslim friend, thanks for reminding us of.
The only thing more horrifying than a pack of grown men brutally gang raping, pimping, torturing, and mutilating an 11-year-old girl is a modern nation like Great Britain letting them do it over and over again for fear of insulting their culture. How pervasive has the perversion become? Well, here's a map of recent cases of gang rape, mass pedophilia, and sexual exploitation committed by a lot of sick men who seem to have one relevant feature in common. British police are currently probing more than 50 rape gangs, and they shouldn't be hard to find, since they're all standing on the back of the fastest growing elephant in the world. The British government spent the last year investigating whether the rape wave has somehow been caused by the race of the rapists. Determined to refute a hypothesis put forward by no one ever, the government concluded there is no simple link between race and child sexual exploitation. Well then, country that gave us Sherlock Holmes, Father Brown, and Miss Marple, if race isn't the cause of our child sexual exploitation epidemic, maybe we can spot another feature held in common by such diverse figures as Abid Mohammed Sadiq of Derby, his partner Mohammed Liaquat, Mohammed Sajid of Rochdale, his partner Mohammed Amin, Mohammed Islam Chowdhury of Telford, his partner Mohammed Ali Sultan, Mohammed Karar of Oxford, and Mohammed Sheikh of London. What could all these Mohammeds possibly have in common?
The judge said all of you treated the victims as though they were worthless and beyond any respect. One of the factors leading to that was the fact that they were not part of your community or religion.
It's sheer coincidence that so many of these gang rapists and pedophiles share a common religious background, and that with several sets of brothers involved in these cases, the rape wave seems to be a family affair. This band of Mohammeds isn't lurking in the shadows. They're inviting family and friends to join them at rape parties, apparently without a clue that what they're doing is wrong. So these men believe that it's perfectly acceptable to rape little girls, provided the little girls aren't Muslims. Now, I'm going to go out on a tautological limb here and say that what these men believe probably has something to do with their beliefs. Let's take a quick look at their beliefs. Chapter 3, verse 110 of the Quran says to Muslims, "You are the best of peoples ever raised up for mankind." Muslims are the best people in the world. What about Jews and Christians? Surah 98 verse 6 calls Jews and Christians the worst of creatures. According to Surah 3 verse 32, Allah has no love for unbelievers, people who reject Islam. So if non-Muslims are the worst of creatures and Allah has no love for us, what's the status of non-Muslim British girls? They're lower than cattle. But these claims in the Quran don't influence Muslims, right?
My brothers, remain in your ranks and do not be scared of these filthy kuffar. They are pigs. Wallahi, they are pigs. Allah says they are worse than cattle. Worse than cattle.
Across the country, many have been shocked at the uncovered sexual exploitation rings, first in Rochdale, then Rotherham, Derby, and most recently in Oxford. Gangs of men lure vulnerable young girls, some as young as 10, with presents in order to gain their trust. Then they force them to take drugs, rape them, and finally they sell them off into prostitution. The reported gangs are made up of Muslim men, their victims, young white girls.
Stay tuned.